Hi there, this is Jacqueline with Nickel and Dime Decor, and I'm at the age where my grandchildren are all building their families, and my oldest granddaughter is going to have her third child in December, so I get to make another baby blanket, baby quilt. And I'm excited to show you. I know there's so many patterns you can pick from, so many patterns, but I want it simple. I don't want to sweat and stress, and you know, I want to enjoy making this for her. We're not going to know what it is until the little thing is born. So I'm making it generic so that it'll work for either one. And I have picked this as my pattern. You Are My Sunshine. And even though I know it's going to be born in December and I could have used Christmas colors, I could have used dark colors, but I've learned from my sister-in-law, whose birthday is in the latter part of December, is that December babies sometimes feel robbed of their birthdays. It's combined sometimes with Christmas, and so this little person, I want them to know they're just a sweet little baby with a colorful little quilt. So this is primarily 2 blocks with some triangles around the edges. So simple. A snowball and a 9-patch. How easy is that? Sometimes these older patterns, which I keep, are the oldie but goodies. And I've never made it. It's my first time, so we're going to learn together. But I want to tell you, if you're interested in doing this, to get a pen and pencil, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need. It says it calls for 77 charm squares. Well, that's a big investment for some people, for me. And if you've read my blog, nikkelanddimedecor.com, I'm all about making your home your safe haven and your castle, but decorating on a dime. And I use what I have, and I have a lot of fabric, so I didn't go buy any charm squares. If I would have had layer cakes, I would have used those, because you would get 8 charm squares out of that. A charm square, you're going to get 4 2.5 inch. The whole goal is to have 305 2.5 inch square blocks. And before you faint and say, I'm not about to cut out 305 2.5 inch squares, I did it in an afternoon, in a day. It's really not that big a deal. If you have a charm square, let's just pretend this is a charm square. It's not. It's a 6.5 inch block. But if it was a 5 inch block, you just merely cut down the center and cut across, and you've got 4 2.5 inch blocks. So it's really just quite easy to accomplish. But what I did, I always have to do things the hard way, it seems like. What I did is I had so many jelly roll strips, and I wanted to use them because I'll never use them in these pastel colors in anything else. So I diligently cut out 2.5 inch squares. I have a square within a square. You need to buy this if you don't have it. It goes to 6.5 inches, and it works. Oh, it just works so good. You just put, right here in the corner, you just put your 2.5 and 2.5, cut it. It's a perfect 2.5 inch square. But I want to remind you that a jelly roll is not always exactly all the way down. You might find one real good 2.5 inch square, the next one might be off a little, and by the time you get to the end, it just doesn't work. They're not true. So I used most of them. I found a lot of them that worked, but some of them I couldn't use. So I just want you to be careful that they are really true to 2.5 inch squares. And jelly roll strips are real deceiving sometimes. So I don't know that I have exactly 305, but I have this cookie sheet and I have a whole bunch of them right here. And I didn't put them out in color sections. I put them out in pattern sections. Because if we're going to make a 9 patch with these, I, in my brain, was thinking 3 solids and 6 patterned. So that's what I did. This stack, I consider my solids. They might have a small little pattern, but they're still, in my eye, I'm going to use them as solids. And I have at least 10 different fabrics in here. Oh no, there's more than that. I probably have about 20 different ones in here. But I want them categorized that way. Then this stack is plaids. And I have, I even have a gray in there, a little light gray, and there's blue, and there's yellows, and just all kinds. They're all different. They're all similar, but they're all different. Then I have polka dots. There's a little gray. There's a green. Blues, white with yellows, just all kinds. And then my last assorted is stripes or diagonals, or they come in all different. There's blues, and there's yellows, and there's greens, and more greens. And I don't know that I'll add any more. I'm just going to have to see how that works. That might not be enough. I might need more of those and more of the... But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these. No, these are my solids. 2 plaids, 2 polka dots, and 2 stripes. And 3 solids. Mix them all around. We'll see how that works. I might decide I want 4 solids or 5 solids. I haven't played around yet. This is just gonna be like my yellow brick road, and it's gonna be in parts, and maybe 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many parts it's gonna have to it. This is part 1. And all we're talking about is getting your color selections going. For the snowballs, this is a little fine, little bitty polka dot. Well, what I found at the shop that I went to, I found some polka dots, but I really liked this one better. This is just scattered. I really don't know what they are, but they're just whatever. And I like the way they're scattered out and there's not a whole lot of them and it's not real dark. And I thought this would stand out a lot better against it, because I want this to be what you see instead of the snowballs. So that's why I decided on this color scheme. You know, yellows and blues and greens and a little gray is, it can work for either boy or girl. So now, I told you that you needed 77 charm squares, but remember, you don't have to use charm squares. You can use layer cakes. You can use jelly roll strips. But the idea is to end up with 305 2.5-inch squares. So remember that. Then you need the polka dot, 1 1/8 yards. That's going to get you your snowball squares, and it's going to get you, I hope you can see. You see these triangle shapes right here? It's going to get you these triangle shapes. There's 4 on each side. So you need 16 of these triangle shapes. Then you're going to have a triangle on each corner. And that's all there is to the quilt. It's going to be a 42.5 approximate square, 42 by 42. So you're going to end up with 25 9-patch squares and 16 snowball blocks. And I would really advise you to lay out your 9 patches. I'd do all 25 of them. Don't sew them together. Just lay them out. I've got a sofa and coffee table that I'm going to put mine all on. Nobody sits over there. So, and I'm going to put my 25 and just lay them out, not sewn, and see what I think. Because it's catch-22. You don't know if you're going to like one. You might like the other. You might switch them around. You're just not going to know. But if you start sewing them all together, you get to like number 20, and all of a sudden, you've got too many that look just alike. So lay them all out and make your 9-patch. Now, 9 patch is so simple. You sew 3 little squares together, make 4 rows, and then build them up. Sew them together going up. And we'll do that later. And we'll make the snowball block later. But I'm just giving you a fast preview of what we're going to be doing. So we're going to make our 25 blocks, and we're going to lay them all out and decide if that's what we want, or do we need to even introduce a new color. In my little snowball print, I have a little gold, yellow if you want to say, or gold, but I've got a lot of yellow in mine. So I don't think I want to do any more of that. But there's even a little bit of purple in there. I could add some purple. So after, for your snowball blocks, you want, out of the 1 1/8 yards, you want to cut with your trusty, good old 6.5-inch ruler. You want to cut with your selvages together, and you want to cut 3 of these 6.5-inch strips. And that will get 6 on each strip, is 12, and then 4 on your third strip. That's what we need, is 16 6.5 inch squares. That's for the snowball. We need the 305 2.5 inch squares for the 9 patch. Then we're going to cut 4 squares, 9 3/4 by 9 3/4. And after we've cut that, we're going to cut it diagonally and diagonally. And we're going to have 4 triangles out of it. And they're going to look like this. And that's for all of our triangles that go around. Got all of that? And you're going to get every bit of this out of the yard and 1/8. You're going to, it's plenty. Now be careful when you cut, because you won't have enough if you make a mistake. But cut your 4 9 3/4 by 9 3/4. Then cut them across corner to corner and make 4 triangles. Then you're going to make also out of the polka dot 5 1/8 by 5 1/8 square, and only cut it once in half. And these are your corner triangles. And now I don't have the binding. I hadn't thought about it, but I want to wait and see. After it's all put together, I want to, like this, they had, it looks like there's a yellow binding. To me, that doesn't really pop. It doesn't stand out enough. I think I would have used the aqua color. But that's to be decided. And the backing's to be decided. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet either. But if you want to buy ahead, you need a 1/2 yard for your binding. And we will use a 2.5 inch binding. And let's see. Of course, you need your batting. You're going to have your batting expense. And if you're fortunate enough to have a 1/2 yard in your stash of what you want for your binding, you don't have to buy that. Most people have to buy the backing because they don't, if you're like me, I don't have big amounts of fabric. I have a lot of fabric, but they're 1/2 and 3/4 yard. Half, most of them. So the backing is, we'll talk about that later. It says 2 7/8 yards for your backing. If you want to look in your stash and see what you think you've got. But this is, I just think it's the warmest, cutest. You know, babies need color. They need things that attract the eye. And this is so colorful. And I think it just will be precious. And I hope I've explained everything well to you. And golly, I can't wait. It's like opening Christmas. I just can't wait to start on a new quilt. I just get so excited. Last night in the middle of the night, I was thinking, now do I have enough of this? Do I have enough of that? And it's just going through my head, you know, and it's just like a kid with a new sack of candy, I guess. I just get excited when I start making a quilt. All you beginners, trust me, you've never made a quilt before, you can do this. I will walk you through it. We'll get it done. We'll have so much fun. You can run the video over and over until you know exactly what you're doing. So now that you know what you need to cut out, you can go ahead and get started. Remember, if you don't have charm squares, use layer cake. If you don't have layer cakes, go for jelly roll strips. The jelly roll strips don't work for you. If you have a lot of fabric, just cut out 2.5 strips and start cutting. I don't like to cut out 3 and 4 and 5. I know people do it and do it well, but I like to cut them out individually so I know I've got them right, which is slow, and I know it is, but that's me. Okay, start cutting out your 2.5-inch squares. Cut out your 6.5-inch squares, 16 of them. Your 4, 9, and 3/4 inch blocks. Cut them in half. Cut them in half the other way. Your 5 1/8 squares, and you needed 2 of those. Cut them in half diagonally. Get all of that cut out, and then you're ready to go. And we're going to make You Are My Sunshine.